Okay, it's 9:30. As some of you know, I'm someone who believes in starting on time and ending on time. So welcome to the inaugural session of our coffee, call-in, and chat sessions. When it was apparent that the coronavirus was going to have a significant impact on the economy and on our workforce, and many people were teleworking and trying to determine how to create some sanity in their lives. We have thought about what are some things that we can do to be helpful at this time. And so we decided that one thing we could do was to offer these sessions for two purposes. One, to bring our community of clients and colleagues together, just because I do believe while we need to be socially distant, remain shelter in place and keep 6 feet distance from other people. I believe that maybe now more than ever we need to stay connected to one another. And the second thing we thought was that everyone needs to be sharpening their saw at this time and thinking about ways that they can get better. The way we're going to structure this session is I'm going to give you a little background on us. And then for those people who know me, know that one of my gifts is that I can do a top 10 list on almost any topic as fast as anyone I know. I really missed my calling. I could have been helpful to David Letterman back in the day. So I'm going to present 10 ideas about what are some things that I think you can do to help yourself and maybe your colleagues as you're teleworking. And then I'm going to open it up for questions and or sharing other best practices. And then we will end promptly at 10 o'clock. I think what we'll do is mute everyone. If we can do that, Kamori, if we can mute everyone until I'm finished presenting. Kamori, can you mute everyone? What we'll do is when I'm done presenting, we'll open it up. Kamori, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So after I'm done presenting the 10 ideas, we'll open it up for questions and best practices. And then, as I said, we'll wrap it up at 10. So a little bit about us. We've got sort of an interesting mix of clients, some people who are maybe thinking about becoming clients, and some colleagues on the phone. And so the mission of Boxer Advisors is to provide high impact consulting, coaching, and training solutions to meet our organizational needs. We believe that one of the keys to doing our work, and one of the keys, sort of the secret sauce to what we do, is strategically integrating our solutions into support what our clients are doing. And we find when we do that, we're able to see some real measurable results and return on investment. Of the three things that we do at Boxer Advisors, we build leadership capabilities, we drive organizational change, and we help our clients to engage and retain top talent. Obviously, all three of those things are very relevant these days. A couple of ground rules before we get started. One, we're going to mute everyone, but again, as I said, when I'm done presenting, we'll open it up for questions and best practices. Kamori, I think what we can do when I'm done is you'll unmute everyone, and then if there's background noise, you'll manage how we can get people to say something.
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. And then second, you should feel free to ask me questions as we go, and or obviously when I stop presenting, you can ask other questions. One way you can ask questions as I'm presenting is there should be a chat bar. For me, it's at the top of my scroll bar, and you can just type questions and I'll do my best to answer as many as I can. And just because this is going to be 30 minutes, if it happens to you, I know it happens to me, that sometimes you're on a webinar and the webinar ends, you think, oh, darn, I wished I'd asked that question. We're going to give you my email at the end of it. You can send me an email. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I believe that everyone who is on the call will automatically receive a recording of the session. If you have any questions about how we might help to build your capacity of your people to manage remotely, send me an email, call me, text me. We're happy to do that. As background, I've run a virtual company for 25 years. I actually had a virtual assistant, it's dating myself, even before there was an internet, which is true. All of our people are virtual, so we know how to manage remotely. I'm going to share some of the things that we've learned, and I'm interested to hear some of the ideas that you have. So let's get underway. So again, I've got 10 specific ideas, 10 specific ideas. So one idea is, I do believe that for many of our clients, teleworking, Kamori, if you can, again, I think there's some background noise. If you can make sure everyone's muted, that's great. So I think for some of our clients, working remotely is a new thing. And I think it's important for people to establish a routine. And what I mean by that is, I think it's important to wake up every day, if you can, the same time. I think it's important to have some sort of task list. I think it's important, I know my wife and I, our gym is closed, so we can't go to the gym. And so we're trying to either walk around the lake or bike ride every day. We're trying to still have 3 square meals. I know, frankly, many of our people, including, our administrator, Kamori, has young kids, which poses a whole nother thing around routines. And so if you've got young children that need to be homeschooled, you just got to build it into your workday so that you can give them some of the education that they need and go forward. When I first started working from home, I think was maybe 35 years ago. I don't know if people know this about me, but I wrote the first small business incubator handbook in the United States. For those people know, a business incubator is a facility for startup companies. I worked for the Small Business Administration at the time. I left working for the federal government and joined a company that was developing business incubators, and I worked from home. And literally, I would get dressed up every day. I wouldn't necessarily wear a tie, but every day I'd get dressed up, and down to the basement I would go to feel like I was going to work. And so I think that's something that, having a routine, I think is helpful for all of us. Number 2 is, I think you can set up a workspace. Some people, while maybe they weren't working from home, already have a home office. If you don't have a home office, I think it's best that the workspace probably not be in your bedroom. Have a designated workplace to perform work, even if it is a seat in your kitchen. I think you need to designate that workplace. I think you need to work there consistently. I think you need to get whatever equipment you need to, as quickly as possible to be productive. But, you should have a monitor, a detached mouse that you can move with a desktop or a laptop. You want a detached keyboard as much as you can. You want to make sure there's electrical outlets nearby so you can plug your mobile phone and your computer in. You want to make sure that you've got enough ventilation. Maybe a plant might be nice, and lighting. All those things are important. Number three is you want to the extent that you can, I think you want to limit distractions and disruptions. One of my colleagues, Linda Bidlack, posted this recently, and she said two facts. One, on average, US workers are interrupted every 2 minutes throughout the day. And it takes the brain fully 15 to 20 minutes to return to full focus after you've been interrupted. So it's not surprising that maybe there are days where you finish the day and you think, oh my God, what did I get done? Nothing. So I think there's some tips that you can use to limit distractions. One thing, again, I saw one of our colleagues, Kamori, posted this on Facebook last night. And again, for people who have young kids, you literally can either take, if you have a flip chart piece of paper in your home or just a regular piece of paper, and you can draw a green sign, a yellow sign, and a red sign. The green sign is you can feel free to come in. The yellow sign means proceed with caution, and the red sign is don't interrupt me. I'm right in the middle of something. Again, you can have quiet hours that you're just gonna stay working, and you're working on a particular project. But I think it's important to limit the distractions. Again, one of the things that I would encourage everyone to do is to, for those people, and I know some of our clients are on today's call that are working from home, but you could put something on your email that says, I will check email voicemail messages about every 20 to 60 minutes so I can concentrate on getting the work done. Thanks for your patience. If it's essential to get an immediate response, you can text me on my cell phone. So you can do that. I think to limit distractions. Number four is you can use tools that are available to you. Some of the tools I think are free, and some of them they have a modest cost. I'm just going to list off some of the tools that I'm aware of, and then I'll speak to some of the tools that we use. Kamori, if there are tools that you're aware of that I haven't mentioned, feel free to jump in. So some of the tools I think are available to you is, I think everyone should have some sort of time tracking tool. There's another tool called Trello for project management and communication with teams. There's another tool that we used years ago with my old company, Basecamp, which is another way to coordinate things with projects. I would imagine most people should have some sort of CRM, your customer relationship management tool. We use HubSpot. So we use that as a way of managing, sort of our database of connections, and we use it to drive our emails out. I think other tools that you can use are freeconferencecall.com. We use that all the time. There's Ring Central as another tool to make phone calls. There's Slack, which is, again, a project management communication tool. Dropbox, which we use regularly. Dropbox is a way to file folders. I would imagine many of our clients have access to their intranet. You may not need Dropbox. Again, we use Google Drive. And one of the tools that I use personally is Evernote. And so, one of the things that I'm a big believer that in these crazy times, we need to do things that take care of ourselves during these kooky times. I'm going to say more about that later, but two things that keep me sane, or three things, are exercising, reading, listening to music, and then I'll add a fourth, is keeping our sense of humor. And so Evernote, I keep a list of my music and then I can play it throughout the day. So again, the tools that we use are Zoom, Google Drive, Evernote, Dropbox, freeconferencecall.com. If people have other tools that you use, you can type it into the chat bar. Kamori, is there a tool that you use that I haven't mentioned that might be helpful for the group?
I was going to say Zoom, but you listed a lot of them.
Yep, perfect. All right, I'm going to move on to the next series of things. So Slack, Doodle for scheduling meetings is great, 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 great. You know, the advantage of Doodle is rather than sending 18 emails to folks trying to come up with a time, you can just use Doodle and people can vote their time. I think for many of our clients, you got to have some system for tracking your time and signing in. Whatever you've got, I would suggest that everyone be really clear about what that system is. How do you log on to it? How do you track for your time so that there's no question if you're working, a normal work day, that you're ready and you're accounted for in the system. I think that's going to be important. The next thing is goal setting, and I would think about goals from three perspectives. One, what are some goals that you can set for yourselves to accomplish while we are sheltered in place and while we are working remotely? What are some business things that you can accomplish? I think the second thing you can do is think about what's some professional development that you can do while maybe work is a little bit slower or your work schedule is a little bit altered. Two things on that note. Literally, we had one of our clients issued a purchase order this week for us to do 3 90-minute webinars for them in the next 60-90 days. We happen to have a catalog of, I think this is true, about 30 webinars that we have done for clients. This is a great way to sharpen the saw and develop yourselves. The other thing, I think some of you may know that I have hosted an executive book club, one in the Washington, D.C. area and another in the Hampton Roads area. And one of the things that we've decided to do with the coronavirus pandemic is we're going to make membership in both of those book clubs free this year. Assuredly, we'll have our first meeting virtually. And so if you're setting goals for yourself around professional development, and either you're a senior executive, or I know some of my colleagues are on the meeting today, of a senior executive that likes to read and would like to be part of a learning cohort, that would be a good thing to do. And then the last thing around goal setting is you should think about goals for setting, for yourself personally. So I know some people are concerned about gaining weight while we're working remotely and maybe don't have access to the gym. So I think there's some personal goals that you can set for yourself to keep focused. I think the next thing is to focus on communication. And I'm a big believer that in times of crisis, I think leaders can't over communicate, and I don't think we can over communicate with our colleagues. And so I know many of you, again, are working remotely and maybe can't, go next door to your colleagues, but you can, host conference calls. You can pick up the phone and call them if you're concerned about them. You can do Zoom meetings. You can do Skype sessions. You can write, emails and exchange information. But I would encourage everyone to, think about ways that you can, connect with others. I think another thing that I know we're going to do this Friday, and we're going to continue that until, things change, is we're going to have a 15-minute stand-up meeting this Friday with our team, just to check in with people, see how they're doing, review what priorities we got done this week and what's big next week. The next thing is meeting management. And the reality is meetings still need to go on during these times. They're going to be virtual. A couple of suggestions are, I would send an agenda beforehand. I would have, if you can, some clear objectives for the meeting. I would, if you're doing a conference call or a Zoom meeting, one of the things that I try to do is ask my team to log in at least 2 minutes beforehand. So if you happen to have 20, 30 people on a conference call, you begin the meeting, you're not hearing, for the next 5 minutes, Sharon Knapp calling in, Carol Taylor calling in, Barbara Mitchell calling in, which is distracting. So if everyone calls in 2 minutes ahead of time, then you can begin the meeting on time. The next thing I think you can do is clarify roles, responsibilities. You can have one person be the facilitator, the note taker, the timekeeper, the scribe, or you can divide up those tasks. And after the meeting, I would encourage everyone to think about ways that you can follow up afterwards. I'm just going to check the chat bar to see if there are any questions. I might ask Jim Hogan to talk about what the RACI meeting structure is. Someone said that they heard freeconferencecall.com has been so bogged down. They've suggested meetings at odd times, which is interesting. I'm not terribly surprised. Someone else had a great suggestion. If you used to pack a lunch to go to work, pack one in the morning and only eat what's in the lunch that you packed each day, so you're not eating 10,000 chips or other things that are not particularly helpful. Someone else suggested, which is a great thing, is automatic greeting cards to follow up with clients. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant idea. Microsoft 365, Microsoft Teams has been great. Slack, again, Doodle, all good ideas, and thank you. I'm going to move on to the final two, and then we'll open it up. So the last two are taking care of yourself, and then what are some tips around managing remote employees? I do think the reality is this is uncharted times for all of us. And I think for those people who have young kids and maybe aren't experienced educators, I think it's important for you to be gentle with yourself around teaching your kids. Again, for me, I'm a lover of music, so I've got music playing because that keeps me connected. The other thing, again, thank God for Facebook. I've seen lots of very, very funny things that have been posted that make me laugh during the day. I would make sure that you're taking breaks. I would make sure that you're taking enough deep breaths. And to the extent that you can, I would try to get outdoors. A couple of suggestions on if you are someone who manages others, some things to think about are clarifying expectations. What are you expecting your people to do while they're working remotely? Second, having some established times or protocols to check in. So Komori is pretty good at the end of the day. She'll send me an email letting me know, here's what I was able to get done today. That, to me, that's helpful. I can't see Komori. I can't go down the hallway. Couldn't do it 2 weeks ago and certainly can't do it now. Again, I would use technology as your friend. And I would monitor how your people are doing. Again, I think, I'm sure you all are reading the same articles that I am about the mental health implications of the coronavirus. I think it was it last week, Komori, that we hosted the webinar for our clients on the coronavirus? Is that right?
Yes, last week, yes.
Yep. So we happen to have a infectious disease doctor on the call, and he knows my affinity for top 10 lists. And so he gave 10 specific suggestions of things that you can do now and what you can't do now. Obviously, you can't watch NHL, you can't watch NFL football, you can't watch the NBA, but you can do some things to take care of yourself, and there's some things that you can do to take care of your people. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to ask people if you have questions of me. We've got about 5 minutes left. I'm happy to answer any questions, and if you have some other suggestions that you haven't mentioned, feel free to dive in. So what Jim says, he said it on the line. So Racy is just not having an agenda, but assign roles. So someone who's responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. Responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. And if you do that, I would imagine that you can use that acronym to create productive meetings. Very easy to Google that and find out more about it. So again, we've got a few minutes left. I'm happy. Does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask? Kamori, if not, can you type in the chat bar? I would be curious to know, are there other topics? So we're gonna have another one of these next Thursday, 9:30 to 10 a.m. If there are other topics that you're interested in, let me know. I know that one of my colleagues, Carol Taylor, is on the line, and she has volunteered to do a session on employee engagement. We'll be asking other colleagues to step in and maybe be a guest presenter. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you're interested in. So this is a great one. Dan says, it's important for me to take cell phone breaks. You know, the end of the day, and I would say, I'll speak for myself, I would say I'm trying to take television breaks. Watching the news 24/7 is not helpful. It's not healthy. I remember hearing a psychologist talk about the impact after September 11th of people watching the news over and over again, and the impact that had on their brains. I believe it's the same thing today, that it's overwhelming to see the number of people dying in our country. I don't think anyone knows about when this is going to end. And so I would take TV breaks. Again, Gretchen heard of the 20-minute rule, which is absolutely the case, that you can focus for 20 minutes and then then take a break. That the end of the day, there's again, your head can explode, literally, if you're trying to work and not take any breaks. We've got 2 minutes left. It sounds as though Elizabeth has a suggestion. Kamori, if you can unmute her, and Elizabeth, if you can say it in 60 seconds, that would be great. And then I'll close the rest of the meeting off.
Good morning, everyone. So Elizabeth Duncan Hawker, the Red Hawk here. Wanted to share with you an observation over the last 2 weeks, and that is actually picking up the phone to call people. The power of human-to-human connection. Please don't underestimate it. We're overwhelmed, like Ken said, with texting, with emails. And then the second suggestion that would be, because, well, that comes from the heart, and I was the one that put the thing about the greeting cards in there. I've been getting cards in the mail. I'm sending them. If you need that help, I'm happy to connect you. The other thing I would say is make sure your phone is silenced in the evenings. Put it away from you. We're getting to be like Pavlov's dogs.
That's right. I think that's great.
Have a great
Sharon,
day.
That's great. Thank you, Elizabeth. So Sharon mentioned Zoom happy hour. So two things. One of my friends, anyway, I hosted a virtual, in Hebrew, it's called a yahrzeit. It's a celebration of the death. One of my best friends, his dad passed away 11 years ago, and his mom couldn't go to the cemetery because of the coronavirus. So I organized a Zoom meeting, and we had 20 people on the virtual call, and all of us got to talk about our connection to my best friend's dad. I'm going to be hosting a virtual wine tasting. You're going to see, I'm going to send, if you're interested, send me an email. I'm going to post it. I'm going to send it to some friends and colleagues on an email. I'm going to post it on Facebook. So with that, as I said, I'm going to end on time. So this was our first session. Thank you so much for joining us. I would say three things. One, I think what Elizabeth said is a bullseye, that we need to take care of each other during these crazy times. If you have any suggestions of topics that we should do or topics that you're interested in doing, you can email me and we'll send a little email out getting your feedback on today's session. With that, that's the end of today's session. Have a great rest of the day, everyone.